Chargers Now is presented by Prize Picks. I am your host, Will Ortner. Make sure you hit that subscribe button because you do not want to miss any of the latest Chargers draft news. We are going to have videos as soon as the draft picks come in. You don't want to miss out on any of the trades, any of the picks, or the next future Hall of Famers that start their career with the Chargers. On today's program, we're going to be talking about the day two draft targets for the Chargers, as well as my mock draft at the very end and who I have the Chargers taking. But first, let's grade the pick from round one because Akheem Mesidor was absolutely a phenomenal draft choice for the Chargers. I love the Canadian kid. He's 6'3", 260 pounds, a little bit on the slender side, but man, that guy can boogie. I get it. He's a little bit old. He's 25 years old, which is ancient in the National Football League. But the way that this guy can bend is unbelievable. He is the most polished edge rusher in this class. He is a guy that can bend the corner, touch grass, and not lose any of his speed when he's touching the grass with his hand. He's an elite pass rusher, and I got to see him at the Cotton Bowl. I was taken aback by how good he frickin' was. He's going to be behind Khalil Mack in the depth chart for the Chargers, but now you have three legit players, in my personal opinion, between Thule, Khalil Mack, and Mesidor that are going to be after the passer. I understand that there is some hesitation when you take a guy who is 25 years old. I saw someone in the comment section earlier today that said Mesidor will retire the same year that Khalil Mack does. And while that did make me laugh on my walk into work, that's obviously hyperbolic. When I look at Mesidor, he is someone that is the ultimate Harbaugh guy. He's a grinder. He comes in, he loves football, and he works his ass off. I think that he's going to be elite for this team, and I think he's the perfect Odafe Oweh replacement, and you don't have to spend $100 million on him for the lifetime of his contract. If he doesn't work out, oh well, who cares? Grade the Mesidor pick down below in the comment section, A, B, C, D, or F. Let me know what your opinion is there. I'm going to let you know what my opinion is here in a second. And if you can't tell by my tone right now, then I don't think that you're a real one because you haven't watched us enough here on Chargers Now to know that I'm going to grade this out as an A+. This is an awesome get for the Chargers. You had to go and get an edge rusher in this class, and you got a guy that in most mocks, and honestly, if he's 21, he's probably taken right around that 10, 11, 12 range, maybe even earlier. If he's 21 years old, people might talk about him being the best edge rusher in this class, but because he's 25 years old and everyone is ageist in the National Football League, he is someone that falls into the middle to late round of one. When I look at Mesidor, this is a great choice by the Chargers. You got the best player available in the draft, and he was at a position of need. Home run draft so far by General Manager Joe Hortiz. We're going to dive into your day two targets and my mock draft in just a moment. But first, I got to let you know that today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 sports pick app and is the best place to win cash while watching sports. With playoff basketball finally here, there's no better time to cash in with our friends at Prize Picks. And I'll tell you this, the app is really easy to use. To qualify for a Prize Picks lineup, pick 2 to 6 players and select more or less on stat projections, including points, rebounds, assists, three-pointers, and several others across all sports. If you're more of a baseball guy, you can choose stats such as hits, home runs, and strikeouts. With the new social feeds feature, you can share Prize Picks with your friends and copy lineups with a single click. That, of course, includes your best friends, me and producer Searle. You follow us on Prize Picks and get the picks before they even get posted on the show. I have a lineup for the basketball action going on later on this evening. DeAndre Ayton, more on his points. Denny Advia, more on his points as well. New user offer. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code HMA when you play your first $5 lineup to receive $50 in lineups. That's code HMA when you play your first $5 lineup to get an extra $50 in lineups with Prize Picks. Clickable link to download the app is in the comments and description of today's video. Now, we all know that the Los Angeles Chargers have a couple of picks in this draft, pick number 55 and pick number 86. So far, the Chargers, at the time of our recording, only have 2 picks. Don't be shocked, though, if you see General Manager Joe Hortiz wheel and deal and try and move back in the draft, or at least acquire more picks for this one or the 2027 draft. Now, after addressing that edge rusher need, it's pretty clear that the Chargers' needs have become a lot lower and a lot less significant. Interior offensive line and interior defensive line are clearly needs that the Chargers still have, and that safety position would be something nice to go and get as well. Help kind of build up this team. Now, when we look at those day two targets on the offensive side of the football, I think you're actually going to see a couple of players here that might shock you a bit because they are not necessarily on any of the three big needs for the Chargers, but they could be needs of the Chargers in the future. And you could see General Manager Joe Ortiz here go, I want to go and attack certain positions early. First, let's look at the guard spot. Emmanuel Pregnon may or may not be there at pick 55. If he is there and the Chargers do not take him, that's organizational malpractice. You got to go and get an interior offensive lineman that can fit well with a zone blocking scheme, and he is exactly that. Now, you see three wide receivers there between Malachi Fields, Dejon Stribling, and Chris Bell. Now, are these the biggest needs for the Chargers? No, but a guy like Chris Bell, with his size, his speed, his athleticism, if he's able to come off his injury and return to the form that he was at, this is a guy that probably ends up going in the first round. This is a guy that a lot more people would definitely be excited about and be excited to get him onto their team. So when I look at a guy like Chris Bell, he is someone that if he's there could end up being taken. Jalen Farmer, now most people have him mocked in round 3. I just made sure that I had him as a target in round 2 as well because you need a guard. I think that Farmer can be that guard. Next, let's talk about the defensive targets that the Chargers could have. First, let's start with defensive tackle Lee Hunter. I don't know if he ends up being on the board for the Chargers, but you can help get your interior defensive line younger and stronger by going and getting him. Keontae Scott, someone who has been a fantastic safety over at the University of Miami. Now, he's a little bit of a smaller guy, but definitely someone that can help add into this crew. Traden Stukes, in my personal opinion, he's an elite corner that can also play some of that safety role as well. Incredible athleticism. Don't be shocked if you see the Chargers go and take a real sniff at him there at that second round pick, because I think he would add into Chris O'Leary's defense nicely, and he could potentially even allow Derwin James to play more of a traditional safety role. Also, look at Anthony Hill Jr. and Jake Goldday. Now, these are linebackers. Again, not another glaring need for the Chargers, but you do need to get younger on that defensive side of the football, even at that linebacker position. These are two guys that could come in, learn from the rest of this crew, and potentially take over that spot. Let me know who you want the Chargers to take down below in the comment section. Very interested in hearing what you have to say. A lot of Chargers players that I do believe could end up being taken in this draft that end up helping push this team to being a Super Bowl contender and potentially an AFC West winner. Let's talk about pick 86 next, because there are some day 3 targets that I think will be very interesting for this team. When we look at the offensive side of the football, again, you're going to see a similar brand of wide receivers and offensive linemen. Now, let's talk about the O-linemen first. Gennings Dunker, Jake Slaughter, and Sam Hecht. Now, Slaughter and Hecht, those are two guys that are going to be centers, but they can also play guard. It's easy to bounce them outside. Gennings Dunker, that's a true man's man right there. I mean, just look at how beautiful he is. He is a guy who's definitely going to be a guard at the next level. I think that he could come in and instantly replace Trevor Penning, or at least be in a competition there with Trevor Penning to replace him. Elijah Surrat and Ted Hurst, these are two fascinating players. One, Surrat, he gives the Chargers something that they don't necessarily have, although they kind of have it with Quentin Johnston. A bigger, taller, stronger wide receiver who can go up and get the ball in the low red zone. When I look at a guy like Ted Hurst, now the level of competition that he's gone against isn't going to be the highest. It is important to note that he's a freak athlete, and last year he was essentially a third of the offense for Georgia State. Anytime you can get a player that has that kind of comp, well, shoot, yeah, I want him on my football team. Next, let's look at the defensive side. Jalon Kilgore is the guy that's going to stand out to me the most because, well, Jalon Kilgore is this year's Walmart version, I guess I would say, of Nicky Manwari. He's a guy who started out as a corner. Now he plays safety, South Carolina. You could instantly add him into this Chris O'Leary defense, and he could eventually kind of be that Derwin James replacement or allow Derwin James to play more of a role that he would traditionally play. When I look at a guy like Jalon Kilgore, you can use him as a corner. You can use him as a safety. I mean, shoot, you want to put a little bit of weight on him, you can use him as a linebacker. The guy's a freak athlete. I love everything about him. Bud Clark, Zakee Wheatley. These are two guys that you could also see being added into the different defensive back rooms that they accompany. Wheatley is someone that I think is a pretty darn good safety. Tyler Onyedim, someone from a Texas A&M defensive squad that had a lot of success last year. And when I look at linebacker Josiah Trotter, that is something that could be an interesting add to this crew. there is definitely a chance that as you continue to push forward with this team, that I think that you see some of the linebackers end up getting more and more phased out. Not because they're not doing their job, but more so because of guys like Trotter, uh, where they're just a younger player. They're a younger version. They can come in and help build up this team for the long run. So that is someone that I definitely think the Chargers could be targeting there. Next, we're going to get into my mock draft, and I think it's pretty obvious who I have the Chargers taking. Emmanuel Pregnon, I think he's available at 55. I think the Chargers take him at 55. You have to get that guard position stronger, and in my world, I don't see why the Chargers, if Pregnon is available, you would wait and risk an opportunity for him to fall off the board. Next, I got Jalon Kilgore. I think that with Derwin James, obviously the Chargers are going to find a way to get him an extension, keep him in the building for the long term. I think that Kilgore can kind of learn from him in that first year. But now you have two Swiss Army knife players. You have situations where you could have Derwin James as the deep safety and Kilgore in the box, or flip it. You could have Kilgore running more of a nickel. You could have Kilgore running more of a dime. You could have Kilgore more of that up high safety. There's just so many different options for you to use him that if he's available there at pick 86, I actually do believe that the Chargers could take him, and I'm starting to really fall in love with him. Thank you guys so much for viewing today's video. We really appreciate it. This is why you subscribe to the channel, though. We're going to have all the draft news videos out for you that you do not want to miss. So hit that sub button. Thank you guys so much for viewing today's video. Bolt up.